Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello students. Now let's start with our next topic here, that is people's participation. Now before the students, we were talking about the ways or measures taken to ensure free and fair elections. Now in part A, we talked about the role of Election Commission of India, right? We saw how they enjoyed the independence same as that of the judiciary. We also talked about the Chief Election Commissioner who is appointed by the President, right students? Again, we also talked about the role of the Election Commission of India and the powers enjoyed by the Election Commission of India. Now, when we are talking about the main role, the primary role of the Election Commission of India, what was it? So, it was conducting elections. But is it enough? Obviously not. So, when we are talking about conducting elections, and in fact, when we are talking about the Election Commission of India, they have this primary goal of conducting elections or role of conducting elections that should happen in a free and fair manner. We also learned the technological ways through which they have enhanced and they have tried to prevent rigging. Here we talked about the voter identity cards. We talked about the electronic voting machines. We also talked about the third point and foremost the important point, that no candidate is allowed to spend much time that has been or more than the specific amount of time that has been set by the Election Commission of India on his or her elections. Correct or not? So these are certain points through which we saw how Election Commission of India, they have tried to ensure that there should be free and fair elections, right? The second point here that we need to understand is about the people's participation. Now, what do we understand by people's participation? Isn't it one of the most important things when we are talking about elections? Definitely yes. So, when we are talking about elections, who are going to vote? It is the common people, correct or not students? Yes. So, here we can say that another way of testing whether elections are free and fair is to see if people are participating. Now imagine a scenario where people know that elections are being rigged. Unfair means are being used or being adopted in the election process. Do you think people would be excited to go and vote on the election day? Definitely not. They are not going to vote on that day. They won't be excited because they know that certain political party, they are going to use their muscle power, they are going to use their money, and they are going to win the election. And we can say that unfair means have been used and therefore this particular election is rigged. Correct or not? So here people's participation is also one of the ways to ensure that free and fair elections are taking place in our country. Now what are these ways? So the first point here that we need to remember is that eligible people to vote to elect their leaders. Yes, one of the most important points is that in our democracy, people who are eligible to vote, they should elect their leaders. Okay? We know that our country right now, if we are talking about the present scenario, definitely economy has improved. But again, it's declining. Okay? So here we have to understand that we are a developing country. Not developed, but a developing country. Okay? Here, when we are talking about the literacy rate, it's not up to mark. When we are talking about the people living in the rural areas and the people who are literate or illiterate, when we are talking about the percentage, we see that there is a certain section of society that is not literate. People, they do not know how to read and write. But yet, they have shown interest in politics. They have shown interest in their leaders. And they want to go out and vote for them in the elections. Okay? Despite the fact that there is certain section in the rural areas, people who do not know, they are totally illiterate. They do not understand a lot of things. But definitely they are going to understand the points that they are listening from their leaders. So, they take interest in politics. Correct or not? Whenever you go to a village, you will see that there is a certain section of people, the villagers, they are sitting and discussing about the things happening around them, the political issues that or the normal issues that they are facing. and what their leaders are doing for them, right? So therefore, here the political leaders, they have the main task to mobilize that support from the rural areas, right students? So definitely people here are interested in voting. Now there is a growing interest among the voters which can be seen through voter turnout. Now, do you know the term voter turnout? Or have you ever heard about the turnout figures? Can you define this term, that is turnout? If not, let me elaborate that for you. So when we are talking about the voter turnout figures, what do we understand by that? And how do we understand that people are participating through the turnout figures? So here, turnout figures, it indicates the percent of eligible voters who actually cast their votes. Okay? So total percent of people who have gone there out to cast their vote on the election day, on the polling day. Okay? Common people, they also believe that through elections, they can force the political parties to adopt the policies that favor them. Yes, one of the most important points here. We already have discussed that people, they need to have open and free discussions so that they can understand the policies, the political agendas of the political parties who are contesting in the elections. Correct or not, students? Yes. So the common people, they know that they are voting, they are electing their representatives. But the main idea is to do what? They are going to elect the representatives who are going to listen to their demands, who are going to listen to the issues that common people are facing. So therefore, they have this common belief that through elections, they can force the political parties, that they can adopt the policies that favor the common people, right? Now here I'll go back to the point about the turnout figures because I would like to point out through the percent of voters, the eligible voters who have cast out the vote in the previous elections that have been held in our country. So when we are talking about the year 2004, just have a look at the numbers here, students. Now this is again the data given by leading newspaper, Times of India, media here. So when we are talking about the electors, in the year 2004, 67.1 crores. But when we are talking about the total turnout figure, the total percentage of people who went out to vote, who cast their votes, it was 58.1. When we are talking about the year 2009. Now, why we are talking about the year 2009? We all know that general elections, they take place at a regular interval of 5 years. When we are talking about the elections that take place in our country. So, remember this point here. Okay. Now again after 5 years, when is it happening? 2014. So do you see the increase in the percentage here, students? The turnout figure? Yes. 2004 it was 58.1%. 2009 it was 58.2%. Though a slight increase, but yet there was an increase. Okay. But when we are talking about the year 2014, we see a tremendous increase in the turnout figures. Right? So it is 66.3%. But again, when we talk about the recent election, the recent general election that took place in the year 2019, the total turnout figure here is 64.2%. Now here look at the figures. When we are talking about some specific states, we see that higher turnout happened in Madhya Pradesh. It was lower in the states such as Telangana and Punjab. So here when we are talking about the year 2014, Madhya Pradesh and Himachal, they had substantial increase in voter turnout over 2014. So have you understood this point that I am trying to make you understand, that is about the turnout figure, right? Turnout figures is really important to show how people are enthusiastic, how much people are enthusiastic about voting for their representatives. The more the turnout figures, it means that more people have participated, more people have went out to cast their votes. It means that people are thinking that it's their responsibility and a major responsibility to participate in elections and vote for their representatives, right? The basic rights that have been given by our constitution as well. So here students, you might find in your book about the general elections that took place in the year 2014 and When we are talking about the year 2014, around 67%. But here the exact figure, it is around 67 or 66.3%. So do not get confused here. Okay. So here students, these are some of the points that you have to keep in mind when we are talking about the people's participation. Now in your next topic, you will learn about the challenges to free and fair elections. Here we have understood the measures to ensure free and fair elections. Our last topic would be the challenges to free and fair elections. We have talked about the people's participation in this part. We have understood that people's participation is another way to ensure free and fair elections. The more and more people are participating, it means that the more and more turnout figure will be there, and also it will be understood that there is a free and fair election taking place in our country.